So this is not the video that I had planned for today, but I received a great deal of pushback and negativity about the video that I made yesterday. People believed that it was intended as an attack on Jay Scott, and it wasn't intended that way. I find it interesting because before Maddie's case, even, I've done countless reviews of interviews that people have done on content creators' channels. There were so many with the Kylie Rodney case, and of course you've seen the ones that I did from Gray Hughes' channel the other week, and I've not had pushback like this before over someone's interview, but there was a number of people who felt that I was trying to discredit Jay, or that it was some sort of dirty move on my part. I can assure you I'm not that kind of person. I don't roll that way, and all I was doing was just trying to get a broader picture of Maddie's world, and if this person is legitimate, I would have liked to have discussed what they had to say on my channel. And of course you've got to start with the beginning. So the beginning was, before this person even did any phone calls, was the email or the written communication between them and Jay. So that's where I started. Unfortunately, like I said, people thought I was doing something bad. So there was a discussion about doing a combined live stream with Jay to discuss the matter. However, she's decided that she would rather just leave it be now. I'm going to review the audio interview with that person and decide whether I will cover it at a later date or whether I will leave it, because I certainly don't want to be seen to be attacking other content creators. Yes, I will speak out. I know I spoke out about Army for Jesus when she was doing ridiculous stuff on her channel, and when I can see someone is legitimately doing something wrong, I will speak out, and I will make it clear that I'm speaking out because they are doing something wrong. But I don't do underhanded stuff, and I actually feel quite hurt at these accusations. I realise that hopefully the majority of people who have made these accusations are actually not regular subscribers, but people who have perhaps come over here because they've heard about this video. I'd like to think that the majority of my subscribers know that I'm not that kind of person. Anyway, moving on from that. So as you saw at the beginning of the video, I just put a photo up to show you my new little man, Mouse, and of course his big sister, Amira. But moving on to this video. So I mentioned this in the previous video that I was working on, that I really wanted to just dig into what Jenn is like as a so-called mother. I agree with those people who said don't call her a mother, it's an insult to people who actually are decent mothers, and I agree. I totally agree. But I did want to have a real deep dive into Jenn and try and figure out if she really did care for Maddie at all, or what the heck was going on. I think, based on the clips that I've got so far, this is probably going to be a three or four video series, because there is so much, and I do want to delve into it all because I think it's important to get the broad picture in terms of Jenn's relationship with Maddie and Jenn's so-called status as a mother, I guess you could say. So I'm going to just jump in with probably the first two lots of interviews, clips from them. We'll see how long that takes, and then maybe from that I'll carry on with the next ones tomorrow. So on that note, let's just jump in and get on with it.
Do you have a picture of her? Can you airdrop it to me?
Yeah, I know. Let me see which picture. I don't know which picture.
Something recently, probably from a birthday party, right?
Yeah, but I wasn't there, so I have to look at what's up.
Go ahead. That's what I'm about to grab right now. Yeah. Alright, cool, thank you.
Is this a good enough picture, or do you need a whole body picture?
Perfect.
Now, I think this is a really, really appropriate place to start. He wants a picture of Maddie. It takes Jenn almost a minute to find a picture of her daughter on her phone. Now, can I point out, too, that Jenn has an iPhone, and if that's, like, it looks like it's probably a 14 or something, meaning that you don't even have to go out of the main folder of images to go to your favourites. You just have to push it up a little bit more and it'll show you all your folders. So you're telling me that she doesn't have a photo of Maddie in her favourites? Because I just went into my phone. Now, were it not for the fact that I've got puppy photos immediately on my phone anyway, and dog photos immediately on my phone, let's say they weren't the first photos, all I would have had to have done was swipe up, hit favourites, and there they were, however many photos I wanted of my dogs. Now, I don't have kids, but when my nieces and nephews lived locally on my old phone, same again. I could have swiped up really quickly and got into my favourites folder and found any number of photos of my nieces and nephews. And yet it took Jenn a full minute to find a photo of her own daughter. Her daughter who's just had a birthday. So she didn't even have any birthday photos. Did Maddie not have a birthday cake at home on her birthday? Because most people, when you celebrate your child's birthday, you're going to take photos while you are celebrating their birthday. Okay, so she didn't go to the party at Yolanda's. Are you telling me she didn't do anything at all for Maddie's birthday? What does that tell you about her as a mother?
We're just gonna try to see if we could pull one more clothing for collecting the clothes, okay? That's okay with you guys? Yeah. We're gonna pull one more and then we're gonna have the dog sniff it out again and see if we could get another track going. Yeah. Alright?
Can I get you like the last outfit she was wearing?
Has it been like with other clothes and all that, like your clothes?
It got mixed in with clean clothes and dirty clothes.
What do you think?
Is it on the floor there in the bathroom?
It's in the laundry basket.
Were the other clothes not good enough?
Now, for me, it was majorly cringe-worthy to hear her talking about clean clothes and dirty clothes being mixed up in the laundry hamper. I mean, regardless of whether that's a child's clothes or an adult's clothes, maybe it's just because I am ADHD and I'm super OCD about various things, but I would never mix my clean clothes and clothes that I'd worn, dirty clothes. If clothes come off and they need to be washed, they go in the laundry basket. If they are clean and ready to be put away, they get put away. As a mother, it's your responsibility to make sure that when your child goes to school of a morning, that your child is going to school fed, clean, and in clean clothes. And if your child's clothes, clean clothes, are mixed in with dirty clothes, how clean are the clothes that they are wearing to school? To me, this is not acceptable. And I know that mental health is a struggle. And existing when you have mental health can sometimes be a real struggle. That's when you ask for help or you teach your child responsibility. I know these days people are less likely to give children chores at home, but I know when I was Maddie's age, I was doing my own laundry. Not only that, because I was in a single parent household, my mum didn't finish work till an hour after I got home, and then she wouldn't get home for another hour after that. It was my job when I came home from school to spin out any washing that might have been in the machine, which would have included any of Mum's clothes. Also to start dinner, because otherwise we wouldn't get dinner till really late. So if Jenn was really struggling that much, then she should have been either asking for help for the sake of her daughter, or teaching Maddie how to do her own laundry. When it comes to mental health, yes, it is normal for some people to struggle to exist. But if you are struggling that much with your mental health that you can't provide for your child's basic needs, then you need to get help. Because it's not fair on your child.
Okay. She doesn't have any other kind of technology that you guys can track. I'm sure you guys already checked
text,
that.
no nothing.
Yeah.
Well, she
Normally
accidentally,
she has her phone, but she left it at home today.
and that is normal for her. She's got ADHD. She's very forgetful.
Okay.
I always have to remind her.
We're kind of forgetful too.
Now, let's acknowledge here that, yes, it is part of the course when you have ADHD to be forgetful, to misplace things, all sorts of stuff like that. But here's the thing. When Jenn was talking about Maddie being forgetful and always forgetting her phone and stuff like that, it was the attitude that I saw from her. Her demeanour was... She was really dismissive of Maddie. Like, this is a major fault of Maddie's, that she forgets things. And here's the thing. People with ADHD can't help it if they forget things. They can't help it if they misplace things. It's not intentional. And if you have a child with ADHD, they need a cheer squad. And the head of their cheer squad should be their mother. So to see her being so dismissive, to see that attitude on her face like it made Maddie a lesser person, makes me angry. And I know that ADHD can be misunderstood, but I feel that if your child has ADHD, then you need to be on their side. They get enough negativity from the rest of the world. They don't need negativity from their parents. They don't need to be told day in, day out that they are essentially a failure. Or you keep forgetting this. Oh, you put that in the wrong spot. You did this wrong. Why didn't you do your homework? Why didn't you do the dishes when I asked you to? Why are you still playing that game when I asked you 20 minutes to get off it? When you use that sort of negative tone of voice, you're giving them the same sort of negative sanctions that they're probably getting at school. So this is not good parenting. Jenn was so negative towards Maddie. And if she speaks about her this way, then I'd imagine that this gives us an indication of the way that she actually spoke directly to Maddie at the same time.
So you last saw her Sunday night about what time?
I would say 11 p.m. before she went to bed.
And you were here at home?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And where did she go to bed? Was she in her room, your room, or something else?
She actually slept upstairs with... we have a guest bedroom. We were all going to sleep together in the same bed, but I needed some good sleep. And I got a new job recently. I haven't been well rested. I needed some sleep. So I asked, hey, can you guys go to the guest bedroom upstairs?
I know I've addressed so many of these things already, but I did want to look at them in this particular context, because when you start looking at them all back to back, it is quite astonishing. Jenn basically put her own needs ahead of that of her daughter. She was quite happy to basically put her daughter in a situation that most parents would never consider putting their children in, and that is having her sleep upstairs in a bed with an adult male, who wasn't even a relative. Personally, I think no 12-year-old should be sent, or 12 or 13-year-old should be sleeping in a bed with any male, any adult male, or any teenage male for that matter. And yet, to Jenn, that was preferable so that she could get sleep. Let's not forget also that she knows that Stefan doesn't sleep. Meaning that even if, let's say, she really did have no idea of what was going on with Stefan, she must have realised that expecting Maddie to be in a room with a guy who actually was always up all night would mean that Maddie wouldn't get any sleep. Maddie had to go to school in the morning. What did Jenn have to do? Nothing. She had a blood work appointment at, 10:30? That's all. But it was more important to her that she should get sleep, and Maddie should have to go upstairs and share a bed with that monster, or be kept awake by that monster when he wasn't going to sleep. Still failing on the mother front.
You didn't see her leave Monday morning. Were you still in bed or still in your room?
I was still asleep, yeah.
Gotcha.
Now, I can understand if a parent was a shift worker and maybe they'd gotten in from work at 5 o'clock in the morning and they were crashed out and they were fast asleep, and so their partner or friend or whatever took their child to school without waking them up. But honestly, when Stefan supposedly left to take Maddie to school, even if it was at 7:30 in the morning, by that stage, Jenn would have had 8.5 hours sleep. If it was my child, I would be wanting to wake up and just check that they'd had their medications and just wish them a good day at school. Most people, it's an instinct, if you are a parent, to be awake when you know your child is around. Heck, if you're an aunt, it's an instinct. I can remember when one of my nieces was a baby, my sister and her husband, or at that time partner, were staying with me just after my niece was born. And every time that my niece woke up through the night and one or other of her parents was just walking her in the house, I was aware of it. Before that, when my sister and I shared a house, I was always aware of when my sister was getting ready to go to work. And I would quite often get up and just chat with her before she went to work and then go back to bed because I worked late nights. So I find it really surprising that Jenn didn't have any maternal instinct whatsoever, and it never occurred to her to want to actually reach out and say good morning to her daughter and wish her a good day.
So it's typical of him to be able to get her ready in the mornings and drop her to school. Do you all tend to split that responsibility, or what does that look like?
Typically, I do it.
Okay.
This morning, because of my work schedule, because I've been so exhausted, I asked him to take over and do it, and he said he would.
Okay. Has he done it before, though? Like, is he familiar with how to drop her off? And
I'm gonna say he's done it once or twice before.
So we actually heard from Jenn's flatmate and Maddie's best friend, both of whom said Stefan had never dropped Maddie off at school before. So that's an outright lie. Now, my issue with that is, why is she normalising him dropping Maddie off at school just to excuse herself for not getting off her lazy ass to do it herself? To me, my big issue here in terms of parenting is that we've also heard from Maddie's best friend that there were times when Maddie would be late to school because she slept in. And my experience is that most schools are pretty accepting of that sort of thing, and they tend not to take issue with that. Now, Jenn claims that she was completely wrecked, but she had a blood work appointment and she was actually there super early. She was at the place for the blood work appointment at 10:15. Conveniently, that place is right near the school, meaning that even if she had still got up at the same time and dropped Maddie off, Maddie would have only been 15 minutes late for school. Or, alternately, Jenn could have just got up 15 minutes earlier, got Maddie to school on time, and still made it to her blood work appointment. It seems to me that definitely this is a parent who puts herself above her child every single time. Even if she'd have gotten up at 8:30, given that she supposedly sent them to bed at 11, that's 9.5 hours sleep had she gone to sleep straight away. She had all day to nap, but she couldn't be bothered dropping her own daughter off at school. Sure, maybe it's convenient to have someone else do it for you. If you're not a morning person, then yeah, maybe getting up and getting organised isn't fun. But it's not like she had to get out of the car to drop Maddie off. She could have gotten up, thrown on her clothes from the day before, dropped Maddie off at school, and come home and had a shower. She didn't have to make her blood work appointment for the time that it was at. She could have actually scheduled that for any other time during the day to fit in with Maddie's schedule. But instead, she let Stearns do the parenting.
Has she ever, in the totality of, I guess, everything, as long as she's been, ever gone off to spend time by herself, or gone to hang out at a park by herself, or something to kind of clear her own head?
So there's a lake right behind this building.
Mm-hmm.
She'll sometimes sit at the dock by the lake, but I check on her often.
Okay. Alright.
Okay, so let's for just one moment assume that Jen is being honest here when she says that when Maddie goes down to the lake to hang out there, she checks on her often. I guess that is a sign of a responsible parent. But I just want to point out that they lived in a gated community, meaning that it would have been a fairly safe place for Maddie to just go and chill and have some time on her own. I don't know, maybe America's just so different from Australia, but I would imagine that in a gated community, you would feel that your child was safe enough to be somewhere in that gated community without you needing to check up on them regularly. Maybe you would check up on them if they had been gone for an extended amount of time. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, maybe I'm just seeing things differently. I mean, I know the world is a very different place now, but I grew up at a time when my friend and I used to just go down to the local park and hang at the creek, and we'd be there for however long we wanted to, and it's not like we'd have a parent come and check up on us. But I realised that kids go missing in America all the time, so maybe gated communities are even not as safe as you would like them to be. So I would say that it is a win if she is being honest there, and she did actually check on Maddie when she was at the lake having alone time. Well, that's a win parent-wise.
When's the last time you got in any kind of trouble at home?
I'm gonna say a few weeks ago.
What was that for?
I don't think. If she gets a yelling, or if she gets in trouble for anything, it's for her disorganization and messiness. How she leaves laundry on the floor,
Okay.
her room's a mess. She keeps her space very disorganized. So I kind of get on top of her. Do I remember the actual argument? No.
Now, obviously, you want your children to grow up to be responsible young adults who do know how to keep a tidy house and clean up after themselves and all that sort of thing. So normally I wouldn't criticise a parent for wanting their child to make sure they clean up after themselves, put their laundry in the laundry hamper, etc. But can we just acknowledge that Jen does none of this stuff herself? And if you are going to expect your child to learn how to function as a functional human being who knows how to tidy up after themselves, how to put their laundry in the basket and stuff, you've also got to lead by example. What message are you giving a child if you're going cranky at them for leaving their clothes on the floor, and yet when they go in to use the bathroom, there's a massive pile of your clothes on the floor? Because can we acknowledge that is exactly what we saw in the photos that were taken while the apartment was locked down. So here I think there is a major failing, and Jen needed to do one of two things. She needed to lead by example, and she also needed to set up, and this is something that I can't blame parents for not knowing. If you don't have enough knowledge of how to make life easier for a child with ADHD, then you probably can't be blamed for it. It's probably worth researching it, but a lot of parents, when you have a child with ADHD, you're just keeping your head above water. But the thing with children with ADHD is about setting up systems, setting up routines. It should become routine for your child to put their laundry in the laundry hamper, not to dump it on the floor. There's ways of doing it, and if Jen was screaming at Maddie or yelling at Maddie, as she says, for not putting her laundry in the hamper, then you're giving negative messages. You can encourage these things without making it so negative. That said, I think there's probably a lot of parents out there who will tell you it can be hard, especially when kids are approaching their teen years, to get them to do simple stuff like tidy their bedrooms, put their laundry in the laundry hamper. So I can go two ways on this, but I do feel that given her lack of leading by example, I still put this down to a fail on Jen's part.
When I went through her text messages back on February 2nd or 3rd, she had expressed to a friend that, I was crazy. I was acting, being nuts.
Old stuff to say.
Yeah, apparently I don't remember this in this conversation. I remember saying this once, but not in February. But she had said, if she continues to behave this way or not listen, when she turns 18, I'm not going to want to live with her.
Okay.
Or also I would ship her off to her dad's.
Oh.
But I never.
I love how when she says, she said that I wouldn't want to live with her when I was 18. But I only said that once. Once is one time too many. And as for claiming, I didn't really ever say that I would ship her off to live with her dad. Why would a teenager come up with something on their own like that? So I would say, especially given that she's being defensive and saying that she only said once that she wouldn't want to live with Maddie when she was 18, that it makes sense to me that she probably also told her that she would ship her off to live with her dad. And look, honestly, no parent should ever say anything like that to their child. The message you are giving your child there is that you don't want them and you don't love them. That is an epic fail in terms of parenting.
As far as her mental diagnosis, she's diagnosed with ADHD. How long has she had ADHD?
Since she was like 5, 6. They also diagnosed her at the same time with autism. So she's had an autism diagnosis for a few years now. I've reassessed her recently. They told me she had some autistic traits, but they weren't sure if she was autistic.
So, I mean, do you ever notice her mental capacity impacting her ability to, I guess, be around other kids or function normally?
I would say sometimes, because she acts... I'm not sure. Sometimes she'll make some decisions that I'm just like, where did that come from?
And has she ever complained about school?
Not complained exactly. I know it's tough on her. She's given a lot of work. She's always behind on work.
Okay.
So just a real quick aside, in terms of her showing some symptoms of autism, there is significant overlap between ADHD and autism spectrum. So it's quite possible that she was purely ADHD and that some of those symptoms were similar to autism spectrum symptoms. But at the same time, there's a lot of dual diagnoses that occur these days. So, yeah, it is a possibility. But I feel frustrated every time Jen talks about Maddie's ADHD. It's like she really defines Maddie by her ADHD. And it's all about Maddie's failures. And I just feel that if she's talking about her failures and her, struggling at school and all that sort of stuff, where's the positives? Because there are so many positives that come with having ADHD. But all we ever hear from Jenn is the negatives, the things that essentially make Maddie a failure. She forgets things. She doesn't clean her room. She doesn't do well at school. These were all messages that she would have been giving Maddie. And how do you think that affects a child's self-esteem? When it comes to children like Maddie, first thing, most important thing is to separate the behaviours from the child. So if a child is being forgetful, separate that. You don't hate the child because she's forgetful. You don't get angry at the child because she's forgetful. You look at the problem and think, how can we find a way to, if this is an ongoing problem, you look at it and you find a way to help the child to cope with that problem. You don't just continually give the message that they are a failure. And from the way Jenn talks, I really feel that Maddie grew up believing she was a failure. Now, I just want to mention also that you don't just develop ADHD. There is definitely research that shows that trauma can lead to ADHD symptoms. So there's a crossover there. But if you have ADHD, it's genetic. You are born with ADHD. And there's a extremely high chance that a parent or an aunt or an uncle will also have ADHD or autism spectrum disorder. I won't keep going on about that. I could tell you so much about ADHD and ASD, but that's not what this video is about.
Got it.
But no, I know, the thing is, I started talking to her about World War III. I was talking about, I'm like, hey, this is going on in Palestine and Israel right now.
Oh, so you're talking to her about the wars.
I was telling her, I was talking to her about just what's happening politically, and I'm like, I don't know what that means for us, but we'll see what happens. But I've talked to her about World War III, so that's what I'm just saying.
How long ago was that? I mean, is that something that might have impacted her?
Yeah, I feel like that's why when I read that conversation, I'm like, oh, that's directly related to me talking to her about what's happening in Israel, Palestine, and the potential World War III that might happen from that.
Okay.
And that's why she said she wanted to go live in the woods.
Okay, we know that that's about version 4 or 5 of the Living in the Woods story. So we do have to take that with a grain of salt. But if there was a conversation at one point in time with Maddie over Israel and Palestine leading to World War III, then that's really disappointing. By all means, children and teens will hear about things like that going on in the world, and that there's a war going on over in Israel and Palestine. But you don't have to fill their head with notions that a war that is going on in a different continent, not even in your own country, is going to lead to World War III. Because the implications there is that, these two countries that are fighting, that could be the end of the world for us. No 12-year-old or 13-year-old needs that sort of stress. And maybe it is a possibility, but it's over-dramatisation. And a lot of the time that sort of stuff comes from media sensationalisation. So, by all means, if your child brings up current events like that, discuss those current events, but don't make them fear that those current events, which are so far away, might actually have a major impact on their well-being. Because it's all speculation.
I have a canine that's coming, if you don't mind. They're going to try to run another track from the church and from here.
Okay.
To see if we can maybe just try it again. You know, last night it didn't work out because the dog lost interest and they weren't able to continue. But I figured, you know, it's worth another try. The dogs are pretty good, so just try to keep them out of her room. We're probably going to use like a... Does she have dirty laundry or like a hamper?
Her most recent dirty laundry is on my bathroom floor, and we've walked around it. We haven't touched it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but that is one of the things that is more concerning to me. That she's basically just left Maddie's dirty laundry lying around in the bathroom and not touched it. Is this because they were given instructions about the dogs? I doubt it, because they had already collected clothing to use for the dogs. So my thoughts would have been, well, let's do a bit of tidying up. Let's do the maternal thing and actually straighten things up. So when Maddie comes home, she comes home to a tidy house rather than a pigsty. And, you know, the other side of that is that I think if I was a mother and my child was missing, if I wasn't out searching, then I'd be looking for things to keep me busy. Meaning I would probably be collecting up those clothes and washing them. Or at very least, collecting them all up and putting them in a laundry hamper. But just leaving them on the floor and walking around them, stepping around them, that it just does my head in. It seems like she just disregarded Maddie the moment Maddie went missing.
Oh, and then yesterday Sunday she had her birthday party, right? Sunday she had her birthday party. Okay, what time was that party at? It started at 3 o'clock. Okay, from 3 to what time? I'm not sure. I wasn't there. I was at work.
That one has always bugged me as well. That is such an epic fail in terms of parenting. Your child is celebrating her 13th birthday. I mean, we can all remember our 13th birthdays as being a major milestone. Suddenly you were a teenager. You know, if you had friends who were older than you and got there before you, it just made it even more exciting for you. Like, you couldn't wait for your 13th birthday. And, you know, it's always been a big thing. And Jen had to work. Now, sure, I get that sometimes you have work commitments that interfere with family events. But surely if your child was turning 13 and you had just started a new job, wouldn't you just want to say, can we swap this shift around, please, so I can be there for my child's 13th birthday? She says in one interview that the birthday was organised before she found out when she was working. In which case, before she found out when she was working, couldn't she have said, look, when you are working out my hours and my shifts, can I please have this particular time off so I can be at my daughter's birthday? I just find it really, really sad. I think I would have been heartbroken had my mother not attended my 13th birthday. And don't forget, this is a child whose father was in another state, so he wasn't going to be there. So neither of her parents were there for her celebration of her 13th birthday. That's just so sad.
I'm going to say somewhere between... He came into the room somewhere between 8 and 8:15. He came in to put the leash on the dog, and I got up to try to help him because my dog is kind of a nervous dog and I didn't want him to pee on the bed. So we wrangled him, put him on his leash, and he said, go back to sleep. And I said, okay. So I laid back and went back to sleep.
So in this version of it, she actually says that she got out of bed to help with the dog. And then when Stefan said go back to sleep, she just went back to bed and went back to sleep. I'm sorry, but if you are physically out of bed, wouldn't you just want to stick your head out the door and say good morning to your daughter before going back to bed? Because presumably she was in the kitchen getting ready for school. Or wouldn't you want to at least call out to her, stick your head out through your bedroom door and call out to her and say, you know, good morning or whatever? Or if you're already up and out of bed, heck, why not get out of bed and make sure that your daughter is ready for school? Make sure that she's taken her medication and brushed her teeth and done her makeup and all those things that you normally make sure that she does of a morning. So to me, the fact that she physically got up out of bed and still didn't try to make any connections with her daughter, that's an epic fail in terms of parenting, if you ask me.
Okay. Well, I usually leave around 2:30 to pick her up. She gets out of school at 4. So I wait it takes me about 25 minutes to get to the school, and then I wait about an hour for her to get out. I waited the whole time. And then when the bell rang and then it was time for her to come out, she wasn't one of the first kids like she normally is. And I realized I was holding up the line because everyone behind me had children and they needed to get out because I was the first in line. So after about, I'm going to say, I think it was like 4:10, she didn't come out and I was holding up the line, so I drove away. I said, maybe I forgot to tell her that I was picking her up that day.
I feel like a broken record with some of these, but again, sits and waits in the car line for an hour, and then when school is out, waits 6 minutes before departing. Doesn't go and park and go into the school to say, hey, where's my daughter? But she simply goes, oh, well, she's not here, I'm going. Wow. That's just amazing. What message does that give your child? If Maddie was held up, and like people have said, maybe she was in trouble for not handing in homework or something. Or maybe she was at the nurse's station, because we've heard that she ended up there quite often. But no, Jen wasn't bothered with that. She just drove off. Like, wow. That one has really, really annoyed me for so long. It's definitely one of the biggest ones that shows us exactly the sort of parent Jen was. Of course, you know, the flip side of that is quite likely that she knew that Maddie wasn't coming out, so there was no need to wait around.
I called her best friend, and I was like, hey, are you... I don't know if I told her I was picking her up from school today or to walk to the office, but I don't see her anywhere. And she goes, no, she never came to school today. She didn't come to first or second period. And I said, what do you mean? We dropped her off close to school. She should have walked to school. She goes, no, she never made it to any of her periods. And I said, can you please check with your other friends in your other classes to see if she ever made it? She got back to me and said no. At this point, I started to panic because I realized something was wrong. I emailed one of her teachers, a few of her teachers actually, and one of them responded to me. He said she didn't make it to his period at all, and he checked all her other classes, and she didn't make it to school at all. That's when I knew something was truly wrong, and I'm before that email or after that email, but I started panicking and freaking out because she should have been to school. She should have made it.
There's just so many things wrong with that. Let's start with that whole notion of she's supposedly ringing Maddie's friends and emailing teachers, but she never went straight back to the school. She's not doing the things that you would expect from a parent. Had you gone to the school to pick up your child and they weren't there, you've just driven to your mother's workplace, didn't see your child along the route to your mother's workplace, and she wasn't at your mother's workplace, I think most normal people would double back to the school and straight away head back to the office and get them to call her up or find out what's going on. It's apparently only a 3-minute drive from the school to Yolanda's office. There can't be that many different routes between the school and the office, and chances are Jen would know what route Maddie would take, and if she didn't know, Yolanda could have told her what route to take, which is possibly why Yolanda went back to the school with Jen in the first place when she finally went there over half an hour later when the school was closed. But to say that you basically started panicking once you got confirmation from her friend and from the school that Maddie wasn't at school, well, by that point in time, your daughter's been missing for 40 minutes at least. Like, you've had 40 minutes to realise that she's not in any of the places she should be. But you need confirmation from the school first before you're going to panic. I'm sorry, but that makes no sense to me whatsoever. We know that Maddie's friends were bus kids, so it's not like she was going to be hanging out with her friends after school. Sounds like the only possibility in terms of what Maddie would normally do after school would be either she would go out and hop in Jen's car or she would head to Yolanda's office. She established immediately that neither of those things occurred, and yet she faffed around till 4:45 before she even tried to go back to the school. The fact that she was absent from the school should be secondary. Jen should have been panicking long before she got any sort of confirmation from the school. In fact, were it me and my child had not come out of the school, then I would be panicking. If, first of all, I would go straight back to the school. I wouldn't leave the school in the first place, not after 6 minutes. But I would go back to the school and I would demand answers. I wouldn't wait until the school was closed and then start ringing and emailing people. It's not normal. This is not what you would expect of a parent who actually gave a damn about their child.
Then you guys went looking for her, right?
Yes.
Where did you look? Like, did you drive somewhere? Did you walk? Like, where did you go look for her?
Okay. So, after her best friend called me, actually, or I talked to her best friend on the phone, I went back to the school to see, let me check her official attendance. Let me see what's going on. They were already closed. Nobody was at the school. So I searched by backtracking into the school and then coming back out and seeing that there were no kids at the school at all. So then I drove office. Everything was driving. And then I think that response from her teacher at that point. But,
So there's a lot of words there. Basically, to just say, no, I actually didn't search for my daughter. I didn't even bother going back to the school for well over half an hour after she, well, 40 minutes actually. I keep thinking 4:10, but the school got out at 4:04. So she waited 40 minutes to return to the school. And that's her idea of searching and ringing the friend and contacting a teacher. That's not what I would consider searching. Once again, epic fail. as far as I'm concerned. She's trying to sound like she did something, when in actual fact she did stuff all.
Did you come back to the apartment at any point yesterday once you realized she was missing? Stephen was at home waiting for us to get back. And then when I told him something was wrong, she never made it to school, he completely hauled it back to me. And then we all stood there waiting for the cops to show up, and they didn't show up till like 7:30. But yeah, no, we did not come back home until we were done with the police. We were done with everything. There was nothing else for us to do.
Again, sorry, your daughter is missing, and you didn't think to go back to your apartment to check and see if maybe her bank cards were gone, or to see if she'd taken anything that she normally wouldn't take with her to school, or even to check if somehow she had gotten a lift home with someone who happened to know where she lived. You didn't check any of those things? You just assumed that there was no point in going back to your apartment, so instead you stood around at your mother's office for 2-3 hours, and then finishing with the police, and there was nothing else to do, so you went home. Didn't occur to you that after finishing with the police, maybe it might have been a good idea to go searching the area where Maddie actually was last seen, supposedly, as in the location where Stearns claims to have dropped Maddie off? Because I think most parents by that stage would be like, right, you're going to show me where you dropped her off, and we are going to go there, we are going to park the car, and we are going to walk the neighbourhood and find our child. But no, there was nothing left for them to do, so they went home. And can we also acknowledge that that was the night when the officers from Kissimmee or Orange County, one of them, turned up at their place around midnight, and they were totally wasted. So they went home around 9 o'clock, spent 3 hours getting totally wasted while Maddie was missing. There's just so many things wrong. You know, so far, having gone through all these clips, I've really found very little that makes me go, yeah, okay, Jen was at least trying to be a good mum.
Were you guys, when you guys were looking for her, did you guys keep looking for her in the Hunters Creek area or somewhere else? Hunters Creek area. Okay. Did you guys come back here at any point? No.
So she failed to mention there that it was actually her family who was searching in the Hunters Creek area, and she wasn't doing any searching at all.
Another thing that I'm going to ask is if you guys can find somewhere else to stay for the night, because we're going to have Kissimmee out here at your apartment for the rest of the night, because the people that come and like take pictures and all that other stuff are not going to respond until the morning. Okay, so nobody can go into the house for the rest of the night until the house gets, you know, we need to take pictures and do other stuff with the house. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. I need to go back into the house. I have medication that I have to take in order to be like normal. Is there a possibility that I can go back in there and get my meds? Yes.
Okay, so one thing there that really bothers me is that Jen was really accepting of the fact that they were locking down the townhouse and that they were going to basically go through the entire townhouse and process it with an entire forensics team. Her only concern was getting her medications out of the house. We didn't hear her say, why are you wasting time with that? My daughter is missing. She was dropped off in Orange County. Why do you need to bother going through our house? Why aren't you out looking for my daughter? But no, that's not a consideration for Jen. straight up, she just immediately accepts that, well, okay, they're going to process the house. No worries. But I do want my medications. That is not the reaction that you would expect from a parent who actually gives a damn about their child, or from a parent who has no idea where their child is. Put yourself in her shoes. Your child is missing. Supposedly she was dropped off on the way to school. That was the last time she was seen, and you believe that she's been abducted. And yet, the detectives tell you that they are locking you out of your house so that they can go through it thoroughly with a fine-tooth comb with their forensics team. And you're like, oh, well, but, by the way, I've got to get my medication out of the house first. Does that sound normal?
Real quick, I don't remember if Detective Tagler asked, but yesterday when you guys were out looking, do you remember what time you were out looking till?
So yesterday, I stayed in the office. My family went out searching.
Which office?
1355, yeah.
You stayed until what time?
I'm gonna say somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock. I left and then I came home.
You came straight here?
Yeah.
And then who was out? Your family was out looking?
Yeah, but I think they all stopped when... Actually, I'm not sure. One of my uncles might have kept searching along the trail, but I'm not sure until what time he was out. My dad as well.
What about Stefan?
Stefan went out sometime in the middle of the night and went searching, cruising around to see if he could figure out where she might be.
What car was he driving?
My car.
Was anybody driving Stefan's car?
No, just Stefan.
And what time was he out?
I have no idea. I fell asleep. But I know he drove my car because when I got into it, I said, oh, the seat's adjusted. Did you drive my car? He goes, yeah, remember I said I was going to take a drive tonight to go search for her? Because he does have, insomnia. He can't sleep at night sometimes. And especially, that's what's going on right now.
Again, didn't do any searching herself. Her family was out searching. Juan was out searching, and we've seen the body cam footage now. Juan's not a spring chicken. When we saw him walking in that body cam footage, you can tell he struggles with walking. And yet he was out on foot searching for his granddaughter. Walking the trails, apparently. What was Jen doing? She was sitting at home getting stoned. Or sitting around in Yolanda's office waiting. Didn't do a single thing. So she's essentially saying that, well, after the police left Yolanda's office, other family members went out and kept searching, but not Jen and Stefan. No, they had other more important things to do at home. And then talking about Stefan going out in the middle of the night in her car. Now, given that it wasn't a case of, oh, I might just borrow your car so I can go down to the shop and buy myself another packet of smokes. No, it was, I might take your car so I can go out looking for your daughter. And yet that completely slipped her mind until the following day when she discovered that the seat was put back in her car. Wouldn't you, if you were thinking that he was going to be heading out through the night to go searching, surely one of the first things you would be asking when you saw him the following morning is, did you go out searching for Maddie? Did you see any signs? Where did you go? What did you do? None of that. She forgot. She had no clue about it until she gets in the car and discovers the seat's pushed back, and then, oh, that's right, he said he might have been going out searching. Where's the concern? It just does my head in. that how could you forget that someone had said to you, well, I can't sleep, so I'm going to go out searching for your daughter. Even if you do end up completely knocked out and you sleep, you would wake up, the first thing you would be thinking when you wake up is the fact that your daughter is missing. And you would remember straight away, well, okay, Stefan said he was going to go out looking, so I need to go and I need to ask him how that went. But none of that, she completely forgot.
Let's say all the sexual stuff did happen, or we know it happened. What if he's telling the truth about dropping her off and driving away and driving around in circles and getting to the vape shop? Is there video evidence of him in front of the vape store? Because I know there's banks around, right in that same plaza. There in an Amscot, there must be video of him pulling into that plaza and waiting.
What do you mean? What's your question?
If you guys have found evidence of him being in front of the store like he said he was, like it's possible that his story might be true and somebody else could have taken her. Like I'm just thinking, like, what if we're focusing, like, okay, the sex things happened, right? But what if that's completely a side thing and not having to do with this, like her missing?
Yeah.
You know, Jen just looks worse and worse the further on we go. Now, she's been told that they have images of Stefan doing things with Maddie. And yet she wants to give him the benefit of the doubt, despite him having been the last person with Maddie. She wants to give him the benefit of the doubt and trust him. She wants the officers to check for video footage to show that he went to the vape store because, hey, then he's got an alibi. So let's not look at him anymore. I'm sorry, but wouldn't you just be tearing out the door the moment you found out what this guy had been doing to your child and wanting to get your hands on this guy and say, where the F is my daughter? What have you done? Because such a massive betrayal of your trust should be enough to make you suddenly question immediately what the heck he did that morning. Wouldn't it make him your number one suspect? It just baffles me that she sat there and she argued in his favour with the detectives. What mother does that? They were right. She put Stearns above Maddie. He was far more important to her than finding Maddie.
At this point, I start panicking and I drive back to the school to check her attendance, but the school office had already closed. So
What time was this?
This was around 4:45.
Okay. And the school was closed already? Okay.
I think they closed at like 4:30. I went to the school, I rang the bell, they were closed, nobody was opening the door. So we decided to leave. But I had already emailed one of her teachers. I think when I had spoke to her best friend, I had emailed the teacher. The teacher confirmed that she never made it to his period and never made it to any of her other periods that day. He checked her attendance for the whole day. When he told me this, I realized something was really wrong. It's truly wrong.
I know I already played a very similar clip to that, but it really emphasises it the way she says it here, that according to her, even though it had been 40 minutes and there was no sign of Maddie, she wasn't concerned. She needed some sort of confirmation that Maddie wasn't at school before she could start becoming concerned. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. If you're child has been missing for 40 minutes, you've got no idea where she is, then you're either going to presume that she never made it to school because she never came out, or you're going to presume that something happened and she left school early. But either way, you're going to be panicking long before you get confirmation about attendance. That's only secondary information. You know, the most crucial thing is finding out who saw your daughter last. And if she's already had confirmation from the friend that no, she wasn't there in first or second period, well, you're pretty much guaranteed that means that she wasn't at school at all. Why do you need to then wait for confirmation from the school that she wasn't there before you start to panic? It's just not rational.
What's their relationship like?
I was gonna say really good, super great. He's always been super sweet and kind to her, very accepting, warming, understanding of her, because she's got ADHD, so she's kind of a little, I'll say, abnormal.
The very first time that I heard her say that Maddie was abnormal because she had ADHD, I saw red. The best description I've heard when it comes to ADHD is that it is like having a computer that works on a different operating system. So like a Mac versus a PC. It's a different operating system. It works differently. And I like that rather than this whole notion that you're abnormal because you have ADHD. Because it's not. It's just a different way of thinking, a different way of functioning. Yeah, so maybe if there's things going on that get your attention, you may struggle to focus on that one thing that you're meant to focus on. But that's because you're basically taking in 20 other different bits of information. Whereas people who don't have ADHD are just going to be able to focus on that one thing that they're meant to focus on. That doesn't make those of us with ADHD abnormal. It just makes us different. And it's not different in a bad way. Another thing I heard, which I think is great, is that in tribal days, the people with ADHD would have been the warriors that basically saved the tribe from attack by other tribes, because they would be the ones that would pick up on things really quickly before anyone else noticed them. They'd be the ones that would spot the bison before anybody else. And quite often, it's people with ADHD that do notice crucial things that other people don't notice and make a difference. So it just makes me so angry to hear someone describe someone who has ADHD as being abnormal. And to hear a mother describe their child as being abnormal because they have ADHD, that's disgusting.
I woke up around 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday.
And he was home.
Yes.
Was he awake, sleeping, or what was he doing?
Asleep.
Did anyone else pick up on the fact that on the Monday, when Maddie supposedly went missing, Jen couldn't get out of bed before 9 o'clock? She needed Stefan to take Maddie to school because she needed to sleep in. She didn't get to bed till 11. And she needed her sleep, so she needed Stefan to take Maddie to school. And yet the day after them being up well after midnight, because we know that the police were there after midnight, she got up at 8 a.m. in the morning. Shame that she didn't get up at 8 a.m. the day before, isn't it? Maybe then she would know what happened to her daughter. Maybe not, because it appears that Stefan had already left by 7:40. But at least, had she have gotten up at 8 a.m, or had she have decided that, well, I can have a nap through the day, so I'll get up at 8 a.m, that would have blown his whole story out of the water, because he would have had no excuse to be leaving the house with Maddie before Jenn got up. If Jenn had said, well, yep, I'll get up and I'll take Maddie to school, I'll do my blood work, and then I'll come back and I've got nothing else to do for the rest of the day, so I'll have a nap before I go and pick her up. But no, she needed her sleep. On that Monday morning, she couldn't get up till 9, and yet the following day, she was up at 8. She had less than 8 hours sleep, but she was fine with that.
So, one thing. Another thing Stefan's got, mental health-wise, is insomnia. He doesn't sleep well, and he's got also sleep apnea. So when he sleeps, he stops breathing and doesn't get good rest. His brain is always telling him to wake up and breathe. So he's always constantly being woken up. He doesn't get good sleep. Because of this, he spends the majority of his day sleeping, just trying to get some rest, but it's a stupid cycle with sleep apnea.
Okay, let's just put aside, just for one moment, the fact that she sent Maddie upstairs to sleep with this guy. But can we just listen to what she just said? She's admitted that Stefan doesn't sleep at night. He's constantly waking up. She was so concerned about her getting a decent night's sleep, but wasn't concerned about Maddie getting a decent night's sleep. What sort of night's sleep would she have got? Let's say nothing else happened, and you sent your child upstairs sharing a bed with this guy who didn't sleep and was constantly waking up. How much sleep do you think your child was going to get? Not a lot. And that's before you factor in what was actually happening. That is so self-centered. And I just cannot fathom. I mean, even if, let's take Stefan out of the equation and say Maddie's older sister, her stepsister, was there for a visit. And because she struggles with ASD, autism spectrum disorder, she has problems with sleeping. Maddie has to go to school the next day. Would you have them share a room? Or would you make sure that they have their own places to sleep so that they can both get a decent night's sleep, rather than have them both utterly exhausted and cranky the next day? You would try and make sure that they were able to get a decent night's sleep. That's what parents do. They try and make sure that their children get a decent night's sleep. Unless, of course, you're Jenn Soto.
Press charges since she's a juvenile.
No fucking idea. I didn't think it was in my power. I thought you guys just automatically did it.
What do you think should happen to him for these pictures?
It's crazy. Like, I saw the pictures, but I'm still in denial because, like, there's a piece there, but is he visual? Does he show up in any of the pictures? Is there? I mean, I don't know who.
I haven't seen all of the pictures, so I can't answer that truthfully.
Because I can't.
Whether it's his piece or not, are you comfortable with him having content of someone else's business on his phone?
That makes sense. Absolutely not. No.
Honestly, if you wanted to show someone exactly what sort of mother Jenn Soto was, that clip would pretty much do it, wouldn't it? She's been shown images of Maddie with a thing in her mouth. And her concern there is, well, what if that thing's actually not Stefan's? What if it's someone else? These are photos they got off Stefan's phone. It's not rational. She wants to defend Stefan. They have to point out to her, so you would be comfortable if that was someone else's thing in images on Stefan's phone. They want to know if she wants to press charges. And she doesn't know. Like, hello. What's wrong with this woman? These are things that should be making any normal parent explode with rage. Any normal parent would be, what are you doing? What charges are you putting against this guy? Because he needs to be in jail now. And I want to know what he's done with my child. Where is my child? Because this guy is clearly despicable and evil. But no, she's so calm. She wants to know if it could possibly be someone else. And she doesn't know whether or not she wants him charged.
So what do you think should happen to Stefan?
I'm afraid to say press charges, but what else? There's a side of me that wants to say he's innocent, that this isn't happen, but who else's people could that be? She's not left alone with anyone else.
And why would they be on his phone?
Yeah, why would they be on his phone exactly? I don't know what to do.
I'm afraid to say press charges. Said no parent ever. She's so calm about it. She still wants to deny the fact that it's Stefan. For some reason, she's afraid of pressing charges against him. What, because she doesn't want him to get into trouble? She doesn't want him to go to jail? It's just mind-boggling. Utterly, completely mind-boggling.
Okay, we can revisit that. Because after we're done talking to him, I'll probably come back and talk to you for a little bit, just give you an update and stuff like that, okay?
Can I make one decision now and change my mind later? If I decide not to press charges now, could I change my mind and press charges later?
So who else had a what the F moment the first time they heard her say that? If I decide not to press charges now, can I change my mind and press charges later? She's probably going to be the only parent in existence who would question whether or not to press charges against someone who has caused harm to her child. It's so unfathomable. The woman is just unbelievable. There's certainly nothing here that suggests any form of maternal instinct.
I know that the sexual acts happened, but I'm not convinced that he didn't take her to school. I'm not convinced that he's the reason she's gone. Because if this had been going on for so long, what's the motive? Why Monday? Why that day? Why the day after her birthday when we were supposed to spend the entire week together and have such a great time? Like, we had plans. Like, we knew we were just going to be together that week and we were going to have a good time. So I just can't think, like, why?
When you say what's the motive, what are you assuming?
That she was taken. Not that anyone that I know has done something to her, because I feel like nobody I know would do something to her, would hurt her, would murder her, anything like that. I feel like, shoot. I just wonder if we're Like, I know the sexual acts happened, but I wonder if that's just completely separate to her actually going missing, and just don't know. I don't know what to think.
Okay, here's what you should be thinking, Jen. And this is what I think every other parent in the world would be thinking. This guy has betrayed your trust. He has been doing things to your daughter for many, many years. He's not the person that you thought he was, supposedly, if she knows nothing about this. I've said my piece about that. I believe that she knew what was going on. I also believe that she helped him cover up. But let's just pretend that she's ignorant. And she has only just discovered that this guy that she supposedly trusted with her daughter's life is actually a hideous, hideous person. And yet she can't take that extra step to believe that he's the reason her daughter is missing. I don't buy that. I think most parents would immediately say, well, hang on, I've been living with a monster. What has he done? Where is my daughter? That would be the immediate response of a normal parent. The protective instinct would kick in, and you would want to kill that person. I'm trying to keep my language clean here. But not Jen. No. She's not too bothered about the things that he did to Maddie. That doesn't make him guilty of making Maddie vanish. It's just a hell of a coincidence that he's been preying on Maddie for the last 3 or 4 years, and all of a sudden Maddie's gone missing, when you know that he is supposedly the last person to have had any contact with her.
Who would have been driving your car between Monday and now, other than you?
Stefan.
Okay. 3 o'clock in the morning.
If he says he was out driving around, trying to think of places to look for her, maybe.
You didn't go with him to look?
No.
Why?
I had to stay home and take my meds and go to sleep.
That's a good spot to end it at for this video. Jen didn't go out with Stefan to look for Maddie that night because she needed to take her meds and go to sleep. It was far more important to Jen to make sure that she got her meds and she got her good night's sleep than to be fussing around looking for a missing daughter. Heck, why would you want to give up sleep to go looking for your missing child? So far, we're only up to the 28th of February. We still have quite a few interviews to get through, so I think this is going to be a 3-parter. But so far, Jen's really not looking very good, is she? I mean, we all know this, but when you actually look at these clips back to back, trying to find the positives, well, you blink and you miss the positives. And of course the question is, are they real positives? Did she really go and check on Maddie when Maddie was hanging out by the lake near the townhouse? Or is she just saying that because that's what she thinks that a parent should do? Were there any other positives in this video? If there were, I've forgotten them already. Certainly, it's not looking overly favourable for Jen at this point in time. She certainly wouldn't qualify for Mother of the Year. So on that note, I'm going to leave it there. I will continue with this tomorrow. So I believe we'll be up to the 1st of March by that stage. Unless there is a longer... No, there is a 29th of February as well. So I will continue with this tomorrow anyway. Thanks for listening. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit the like button and do leave a comment below. I'm really keen to try and reach the 5,000 subscriber mark now. So you can help me do that by hitting like and leaving a comment, and that gets my videos out there into the algorithm. So thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.